Today, we're going to take a deep dive. We're focusing specifically on the cryptographic key lifecycle, but within this really remarkable piece of technology called a hardware security module, an HSM.
Exactly. And our mission for this deep dive really is to sort of demystify these HSMs. We want to explore what they are, but maybe more importantly, how they offer this comprehensive protection and management across the entire life of a cryptographic key. We're tracing its journey, you could say, from its very first secure creation right through to its final irreversible destruction. It's about this holistic approach HSMs take to securing these really critical digital assets.
Okay, sounds fascinating. Let's unpack that journey then.
Okay.
A key's life inside an HSM. Where does it all kick off?
Well, fundamentally, you need to understand that an HSM isn't just software. It's a purpose-built hardware solution. Its main job is to provide this incredibly secure environment specifically for cryptographic keys, protecting them from start to finish.
And when you say start to finish, you really mean every single stage. I understand there are typically, 7 distinct phases in a key's life that an HSM manages?
That's right, 7 key phases. And it naturally starts with, well, key generation, creating the key itself. Now, what makes HSM key generation really stand out, what makes it superior, is its use of true random number generators, TRNGs.
TRNGs. Now, when you say true random, I think a lot of people might just assume any computer-generated number is random. So what's the difference here? Why does an HSM using a TRNG change the game compared to, say, just generating a key using software?
That's a great point and a common misconception. Software-based random number generators are often pseudo-random. They use algorithms, they start with a seed value, and well, if you can figure out the algorithm and the seed, you could potentially predict the numbers, which is bad news for keys. But a TRNG inside an HSM, that's different. It draws randomness from unpredictable physical phenomena, things like atmospheric noise or thermal noise, even radioactive decay sometimes. It's not based on a predictable algorithm.
Ah, I see. So it's not just more random, it's fundamentally different randomness. You're removing that potential vulnerability of prediction entirely.
Exactly. It makes predicting the key mathematically impossible, really, even with massive computing power. It's the bedrock of strong encryption. You need high-quality, unpredictable keys to start with. So once you've generated these high-quality keys, they don't just, sit around unprotected. They're immediately stored right there within the HSM's secure environment. And it's designed to be tamper-resistant.
Tamper-resistant. That sounds robust. What does that actually mean in practice? Are we talking physical locks and alarms?
Yes, partly physical, but also logical. Think of it as a protected enclave. It has physical shielding, yes, sensors that can detect attempts to physically break in, and if they do, they can react often by wiping the keys instantly. But it's also logical protection. Unauthorized software, rogue processes, they just can't access the key material directly. It's about ensuring both confidentiality, keeping the key secret, and integrity, making sure it hasn't been altered.
Got it. The digital Fort Knox, like you said. Okay, so the key is generated securely, stored securely. What's next? Distribution.
Right. Key distribution and installation. Keys often need to be shared with other systems or applications that need to use them. HSMs manage this securely. They typically distribute and install keys in what's called a wrapped form. Basically, the key is encrypted using another key before it leaves the HSM. Okay. So even if someone, say, intercepts that key while it's being sent across a network, it's useless to them because it's encrypted. It's like sending valuables in a locked box, even internally.
Precisely. That wrapping is crucial. It means the key is protected even during transit. It never exists in its raw, plaintext form outside the secure boundary of an HSM, not even for that brief moment of travel.
Makes sense. So generation, storage, distribution, now we get to actually using the key, right?
Exactly. Key use. This is where the HSM acts as a strict gatekeeper. It controls how the keys are used for whatever they're meant for: encryption, decryption, digital signing, you name it. Access is tightly controlled based on policies you set up beforehand.
And this seems critical. The actual cryptographic operation, the encryption or the signing, happens inside the HSM itself.
Yes, that's a key security feature. The operations are performed within the secure boundary of the HSM, which means the plaintext key, the actual secret key, never has to leave that protected environment to be used. That prevents a whole class of attacks where malware might try to scrape keys from memory during an operation.
Precisely. The key stays safe inside. Now, what's also fascinating and a really important part of the life cycle is key rotation.
Key rotation, okay, like changing the locks on your house periodically.
That's a great analogy. It's a proactive security measure. You don't wait for a key to be compromised. You replace it regularly.
Why is that so important? Does it imply keys have an expiry date?
Not exactly an expiry date, but it's about limiting risk over time. The longer a single key is in use, the more data is protected by it, and theoretically, the more time an attacker might have to try and break it or discover it. Rotating keys means generating new ones and securely replacing the old ones. This reduces that window of vulnerability for any single key. If an old key were ever compromised, it would only affect data protected during its limited lifespan.
That makes perfect sense. But are there practical challenges? Implementing regular key rotation across maybe hundreds or thousands of systems, that sounds complex.
It absolutely can be complex, especially in large environments.
Yep.
You need to manage generating new keys, distributing them securely, updating all the applications that use them, and decommissioning the old ones, all without disrupting service. HSMs help significantly here by automating a lot of this process and ensuring the new keys are generated and handled just as securely as the first ones. But yes, it requires careful planning and management. The security benefits, though, generally outweigh the operational overhead.
Okay, so keys are generated, stored, distributed, used, rotated. What if something goes wrong, like a disaster, or simply losing access? Backup and recovery must be part of this.
Absolutely crucial. Key backup and recovery. HSMs provide secure ways to back up keys, again, usually in that encrypted or wrapped form. You can't just copy the key file. And recovery is also managed securely. You need processes to restore keys if the primary HSM fails, or if you need to recover from a backup.
And this isn't just for like major disasters, right? It
Yeah.
could be something as simple as an employee who managed a key leaving the company, or a key potentially being compromised and needing to be restored from a clean backup.
Exactly. It's vital for business continuity in all sorts of scenarios, and that secure manner is key. You don't want the backup or recovery process itself to become a security loophole.
How do they ensure that security during recovery?
There are several techniques. Three main ones are often used. Split knowledge is one, where maybe multiple people hold different parts of a recovery key, so no single person can do it alone. Then there's dual control, similar idea, requiring two or more authorized individuals to approve the recovery action, like needing two keys to open a bank vault, and key escrow, where keys might be securely archived, perhaps split and stored with trusted parties or within a secure system, again requiring rigorous procedures for access. It's all about preventing single points of failure or compromise.
Got it. Multiple layers of control even for recovery. So we're nearing the end of the key's life now.
We are. The final stage, key revocation and destruction. When a key is no longer needed, maybe it's been rotated out, or worse, it's suspected of being compromised. It needs to be properly taken out of service. HSMs manage its secure revocation, basically marking it as invalid, and then critically, its irreversible destruction.
Irreversible, so you really mean gone forever, no chance of recovery.
That's the aim. Secure deletion protocols are used to ensure the key material is wiped in such a way that it cannot be recovered, even with forensic tools. You don't want old, potentially compromised keys lingering around where they could somehow be misused later. No zombie keys.
Right, closing the loop completely. Okay, we've covered the hardware, the processes, the life cycle stages, but what about people? You hear so much about insider threats. How do HSMs help guard against, say, a rogue admin?
That's a really critical aspect, and honestly, one of the most powerful features of HSMs. They aren't just about protecting keys from external hackers, they're also about enforcing rules internally. HSMs enforce strict policies at the hardware level. These aren't just software settings that someone might bypass. The hardware itself governs cryptographic operations. Policies can bind specific actions to specific roles, require multiple approvals, or only allow operations under certain conditions.
So even someone with high-level privileges, like a system administrator, can't just walk in and misuse a critical key.
Not if the policies are set up correctly. The HSM can prevent unauthorized access or misuse, even by privileged users. It enforces the rules impartially.
That sounds like it fundamentally shifts trust. Instead of trusting individuals completely, you're trusting the hardware-enforced process. How does that look in practice? Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about features like multi-part user authorization. Maybe signing a critical piece of code requires keys or credentials held by 3 different people, and the HSM won't perform the signing operation unless all 3 authenticate, or strict separation of duties. The HSM can be configured so that the person or role allowed to generate a key is different from the role allowed to use that key for signing transactions, and maybe different again from the role that can back up the key.
So no single person has end-to-end control.
Exactly. And you layer on top comprehensive audit trails. Every significant action key generation, use, dilution, policy changes is securely logged by the HSM itself, creating an immutable record. The goal is to make it so that compromising critical keys or operations requires collusion between multiple specific individuals, which is much harder to achieve and much easier to detect. It significantly reduces the risk of a single insider causing major damage.
Interesting. So it's not just tech, it's tech enforcing process.
Absolutely. If you connect this to the bigger picture, effective security using HSMs isn't just about plugging in a box. It's this synergy, this blend of robust hardware, strict software controls running on that hardware, and crucially, well-defined organizational processes. The human element, the potential for error or malicious intent, is acknowledged, and it's mitigated through these procedural safeguards that are enforced by the HSM itself. It builds a much more resilient system.